So today you guys are going to be learning about lichen. You guys are going to learn about where it grows, what type of conditions it can grow in, and you guys are going to do some observing of it, and then kind of learn about its relationship with different types of lichen and stuff. So yeah. So I'm going to pass around this sheet of paper. It has some different types of lichen on it that grow in Colorado. They're not named. It just kind of shows you some examples. So you guys can all look at that, pass that around so that you guys get an idea of what lichen looks like, so that when we do some observing you can just be able to know what you're going to look for. So lichen is a living organism, but it is not a plant. Does anyone know the difference between lichen and moss?
Moss is fuzzy.
Okay, but lichen can also be fuzzy. Yeah,
It can?
Is it spores?
So
doesn't it like require a fungus or something?
So lichen is fungus, yeah. So moss is actually a plant, but lichen is not a plant. Does anyone know anything about lichen already?
I don't know a whole bunch about lichen.
It's pronounced lichen.
It's actually lichen. So even though it's spelled kind of weird and it might look like it's pronounced like kitchen, it's actually lichen.
Lichen like a lighter shade?
That actually, I think that's moss.
Yeah, that
Because
looks
moss
like
has like little tiny leaves.
But like, why is moss and lichen like always growing together? Because like you'll see like the lighter like teal type shades, and then like you'll see like moss like on top of it, like right here. They have them like together.
Also,
And is this lichen because it's orange? Is there such
I
thing as
thought
orange?
lichen was like photosynthetic or something, so like, why is it orange?
Maybe,
Isn't that not helpful?
Probably. I don't know. And these are like,
Also, why is it like split in half here? Like,
I don't know. There's some on this rock too.
does this side get more sun or something?
I don't know. And there's like different types growing on the rock too, so I wonder how that happens
Fancy.
and how they like grow together.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Seeing a lot of lichen?
Just found some raspberries and lichen.
Oh, nice. What do you guys notice about the lichen?
It's moist. Every time I've seen it, it's been like completely dry and cracked, and you touch it, just disintegrates pretty much.
Rubbery
Yeah.
now.
And so something cool about lichen also is that lichen can completely dry out and lose every drop of water in it and not die.
Like moss.
Nope, moss can't do that. That's
That's
pretty
moss
cool.
bread.
So how many different types of lichen did you guys find?
Yes.
4.
4 different types of them? 2? 5? 4?
Wait, maybe
3? Okay.
7%.
What were they? Like, can you describe some of them?
Some were different colors. Some were very
Yeah, there was orange right there.
Okay.
Different.
And there was like this
Feel
one that
texture
kind of
to 'em.
like
Okay.
had this weird like coney type thing.
Okay.
Not
So
a
Andrew,
color.
you mentioned some different types of textures. What types of textures?
Like some were just like flat against the rock, some stuck out a bit.
Okay.
Some were kind of furry.
Furry? Okay.
Flaky.
Nice. So I was explaining this to a couple of you over there. So one cool thing about lichen is lichen can actually dry out completely and lose every single drop of moisture it has and not die, which is kind of interesting. It grows in a lot of different environments, so it can even grow in like tundra environments, it can grow in desert environments, and environments like this, which is cool because you see it everywhere and you kind of just walk past it and it gets looked, you're like, oh, some lichen, oh well, you know. So that's kind of interesting about that. So how were like the different types of lichen you saw different from each other?
Well, some like kind of stuck out from the rock, and some were just kind of like flat on the rock.
Okay. How were they the same?
All rocks and dead
Okay. And trees, so rocks and trees.
or some one growing on dirt.
Oh really?
Yep,
Okay.
growing on
Didn't
the ground
have
on top of
leaves.
dead moss.
What?
They didn't have leaves.
Okay. that's good though. That is something awesome. So how do you think lichen is similar to plants? Because we talked about how moss is a plant, but lichen is not.
On rocks, just like moss, 'cause there's moss growing on the rock.
Yeah.
Like moss, it grows in the same environment. Dark, damp, moist,
Okay.
mostly wet environments.
Yeah. Awesome. So lichen is an organism that comes from bacteria and algae, which is kind of cool. And it lives among fungus, and it is in it's called a symbiotic relationship. Does anyone know what that means? Ever goes first.
It means it works together with another organism to survive.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that?
No.
No.
Mutually beneficial.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So it has a close long-term relationship with something else. So an example of a symbiotic relationship. Can anyone give me another one?
Nursing sharks and regular sharks.
Okay. Yeah.
Nursing sharks eat the parasites off the shark, that way it can survive longer. And the shark doesn't die, and the nursing shark will eat the parasites and have a meal.
That's what I was gonna say.
So there's a really good one in Finding Nemo. Can anyone think of that one?
Oh, the dentist.
Yeah, the fishy, the
The
shrimp.
thing that
Where
eats the fish
does
tank.
Nemo live?
Fish tank. Coral.
You've ever said it. So the clownfish and the anemone are actually an example of a symbiotic relationship because they help each other live.
Wait, how do they help each other?
So the anemone has stings, and the clownfish are covered in like some kind of like little mucus things so that they don't get stung, and they live in there, and then they protect
Oh,
them.
I've heard that.
They eat stuff in there.
Nice. I didn't know that, so that's awesome. Okay, so it's an asexual reproduction. So if the lichen breaks off and it falls onto the ground or onto a different rock, that piece of lichen can start growing again on that rock, and they'll both still live, and it just reproduces like that. So that's cool.
To get this straight, moss doesn't grow on lichen.
I'm pretty sure it can.
It can.
Okay.
It can, yeah. But that one right there that you saw is lichen.
No, I'm pretty sure that's lichen.
What makes you think that?
Because it has like little tiny leaves.
Okay, so different types of lichen can actually have leaves of them.
Look at the picture.
Yeah. So this is a good segue for the next part. So I'm going to pass out some lichen keys.
Okay, pass it
Are
down.
you gonna keep them?
Yes, if you want. There's not enough for everyone. So the pairs that you were in earlier, just kind
Andrew, I'm taking our
of
keys.
share.
Okay.
Here's some. You can pass those back to them.
This looks like a cactus with hair.
The shrubbery.
I thought that was moss.
No, but it looks.
Oh, it's old man.
So this next time, you guys are going to go back out and look for more of the lichen. But this time, you guys can use the key to kind of look at it more in depth and kind of figure out what's lichen and what's moss and stuff like that.
So, found this lichen here, growing over some moss. Kind of interesting. Kind of makes you wonder where the lichen came from, since there's not a lot around it. Maybe like crept up somehow. Thank you.
So what type of lichen do you think that
I
is?
think this is the leafy lichen.
Okay, nice.
The interesting thing is these little, I don't know, tubes
Leaves?
or whatever are growing out of the leafy lichen. So it's like,
Oh, so is this
That's or
leafy
something?
lichen over here?
That's it?
Nice, awesome. You finding some more lichen over here, Stan?
Yeah. This up here.
Cool. There's some right by your hand too. What kind would that be?
This one right here?
Yeah.
That would probably be the crusty one. Looks more crusty. Maybe this would be leafy, and then this
Nice.
would be crusty.
So so it's growing on top of it, like we were talking
Yeah,
about.
so this one kind of looks like it died, like it's all gray, and then this is like growing
Okay.
over because it's all fresh.
Awesome. Nice. All right. So what did you guys notice now when you got to use the lichen key?
There's a lot of crusty.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of crusty and leafy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I couldn't
Not
find
a lot
any
of the
shrubbery.
shrubby.
So on the rocks and the trees and stuff where the lichen grows, it actually grows in order on top of each other. So can anyone take a guess at which order they might grow in?
Oh, crusty goes first.
Okay.
Leafy, shrubby.
Crusty, leafy, shrubby, yeah.
Exactly. Crusty, leafy,
Yeah.
shrubby. So the crusty will die and then the leafy will grow on top of it. And then it just kind of works like that. What else did you guys notice?
Shrubby's pretty hard to find.
Okay. So maybe this environment isn't super awesome for shrubby.
Yeah, maybe like the leafy and crusty haven't died yet for the shrubby to
Okay,
grow
so
over.
maybe it's newer lichen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
And what else did you guys learn? What other questions can we ask about lichen? What's the difference between lichen and moss?
Moss is a plant. Lichen grows underneath moss.
Okay.
Lichen is a symbiotic relationship.
Is a fungus.
Okay, can you explain what a symbiotic relationship is?
It's like multiple or two organisms working together.
Okay, yeah, and
not
it's long
die.
term too.
It's Nemo and an anemone.
Exactly. What else did you guys learn?
Whatever's got lichen on it has to be there for a while.
Okay.
You won't find it on like leaves or new branches.
Okay. So, is there anything you guys are still curious about lichen?
Can like the shrubby lichen grow on rocks? Because I think I've only ever seen that kind of lichen on trees.
Interesting.
Yes, it actually can grow on rocks.
I know that because the lichen kind of grows on top of each other, it probably could grow on rocks, but I bet it's more common that it grows on trees because it probably needs somewhere to put its like roots. Yes, Malia.
So the other day when we were hiking, we saw that huge piece of rock and it had like that weird stuff peeling off of it. Was that lichen or what is that?
Which rock are you talking about?
yeah.
The place where we did
Pretty
all the
sure it was
sliding.
the one with all the white
Like-
stuff on it. Remember?
It was like
yeah, it
curling.
was like had a white.
Yeah,
like,
that
the
was
whole
lichen.
Rock was like gonna
Yeah, that was lichen. Yeah. So that lichen was probably dying or just falling off the rock, and then it would regrow wherever it landed if it was somewhere that the lichen could grow.
How does a lichen start growing somewhere?
There was one lichen somewhere.
Does anyone know the answer to that question?
Usually because of spores, just because
Yeah.
since it's like a single cell organism,
Exactly.
it'll just be in the air, land wherever, and just start growing.
Exactly. And because it has asexual reproduction, it can kind of just start growing. It doesn't need like a male and a female lichen.
Is there certain types of lichen that are like poisonous or have more self-defense mechanisms besides just sticking to a rock?
Yeah, so lichen isn't really at risk, really. The biggest kind of threat to lichen is actually pollution.
Oh, okay.
So as the pollution gets worse in the air, the lichen has a harder time living because the lichen lives through the air, you know?
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? So, I mean, because there's so much lichen, it just kind of regrows. It's not a huge deal if a reindeer or a banana slug eats it because it just kind of regrows. It's not like you need to, like, it takes time, but it doesn't really, it's hard to kill lichen, really.
Okay. Does it eat anything else in sunlight? Does it like process anything?
Like photosynthesis.
Yeah, like
I
we
think
know
that's
it
very interesting.
can like use the sunlight to grow, but like what if it doesn't have sunlight? How does it grow?
I'm not really sure. That's a good question, Stan. I know that lichen does use photosynthesis because you can see the different colors, so you can see that there's certain amounts of chlorophyll. Yeah, so since it uses photosynthesis, you can see because of the different colors and the different stages of lichen, like the shrubby lichen and the leafy lichen probably uses more sunlight because it grows further, you know, and you probably won't see orange shrubby lichen, you know, like the shrubby lichen and the leafy lichen will probably have more green color to them. If that makes sense. Or the teal or something more that would require more photosynthesis and more chlorophyll.
It can grow like in a tree or on a tree.
Yeah.
We can measure pollution impact with it.
Yeah, for sure.
That it
What
grows
else?
on top of each other.
That it grows on top of each other? Okay, cool.
That shrubby stuff is lichen.
Asexual.
Yeah. So, why do you think this information could be useful in the future?
Why ever study a career in lichen?
To measure the damage of pollution on the environment.
Yeah, that's
via the
awesome.
lichen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of a cool thing to know too, because I think a lot of people, when they're hiking or just out and about, you just walk past lichen and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know, like, or you're like, why is this rock orange, you know? So it's kind of interesting information to know and pass on to others, especially working as trail stewards. It's a good thing to know because some visitors might ask, or so it kind of gives you some more knowledge on that so that you can make other people knowledgeable. Yeah, exactly.